Anthony Grassi here for the College.town set at 2025 NACDA. Happy to sit down with Wisconsin Eau Claire Director of Athletics Jason Verdugo and Stevens Institute of Technology Assistant Vice President Director of Athletics Russ Rogers. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. The biggest focus for both of y'all as you sit on Management Council now from a big picture standpoint is what?
Well, again, obviously now that the settlement is kind of intact, I think all of us will really kind of just see what happens next. You know, a lot of what happens in college athletics, particularly there's cascading effect. You think about what happens at the Division I level, and then kind of, you know, it just moves on from there. But I feel confident the fact that we do now have a strategic direction, if you will, and excited about what's next.
Yeah, I agree with Jason. It was nice to get the letter from President Baker the other night and know that part is kind of, there's some closure on it, I guess, a little bit, and we'll kind of see what happens. I'm sure there'll be some trickle-down effects, and we have to be ready and nimble to react to that. But I think there's an excitement in that and a relief at the same time, and I think we're all now ready to move forward. There's a lot of unknowns, but we'll tackle it day at a time.
How have you both handled that on your campuses? The uncertainty that obviously there's certain things we still don't know. But how have you tried to maybe prepare for that, Russ?
I think for us, just understanding who we are as a Division III institution and knowing that there's a stark difference between Division I and Division III. So we see it. We see it with transfers that come to our school from Division I and some of those types of things. But really staying true to what we are as a Division III institution, our mission as educators, and also trying to provide the best student-athlete experience possible. What we're doing is different than Division I. I'm not going to pretend anything else, but it's really, you know, balancing out what's going on with NCAA Division III and keeping an eye on what's happening in the Division I as well.
I mean, I couldn't say it any better. I think the one thing that probably myself and Russ and many others have done is trying to educate our coaching staff, trying to keep them up to date on what's going on, especially if you're going to acquire talent, whether it's the portal or transfers. You know, as you see some of the institutions that opt in and abide by the kind of the roster limits, what student athletes are going to become available in particular sports. And then, as Russ said, I think the biggest thing is continue to stay true to your ideals. And as we bring in talent potentially that may fit for us, just understanding of what that looks like for us at the Division III institution, ensuring that keeping top of mind that academic priorities and what we do is first and foremost, and then the second thing is culturally, you know, that they're a good fit for our institutions.
Is there a feeling that now that this is settled, obviously there's brought some stability, probably especially within the national office, but does there feel like now there is maybe more space for D3 to take some issues forward on a more broad level, given that the House settlement, for a good reason, has taken up so much oxygen, given the financial implications of it?
Yeah, I would say so. I see anytime you have some direction, I'll just say that, anytime you have some strategic direction, it allows you some space to say, okay, what's next for us in Division III? Certainly championships has been paramount. We feel really excited about what we've done over the last several years. And then with MPI being one of those things, how can we continue to enhance things like that make our membership, you know, again, very competitive, as well as continue to be nimble and stay at the forefront of things.
Yeah, and just adding on to that, I think, where does Division III go with the transfer portal? Do we still need our self-release? Do we still need our trace reforms? How much are we going to dive into that, or, you know, how much more? I think it is one thing. The streaming success that we've had the last year or two, from the numbers that we've seen, is impressive, and I'm excited to see where that's going to go as our division continues to move forward, and, you know, maybe we grow a little bit more, but it'd be fun to be a part of it.
Yeah, the portal was one point that Louise mentioned during her conversation today about the state of, or the future for four-year institutions. Where do both of you kind of stand on that? Obviously, I'm not I'm not going to hold you to anything, but from a more big picture standpoint, does the portal fit as something in Division III?
I would say so. I think anything that can provide some consistency among all of our institutions. The one thing that's really difficult is you have 400 plus institutions and all their identities are different, from state to private to small liberal arts to bigger liberal arts institutions. So I think anything that can provide consistency. The one thing that I will say is trying to create efficiencies for our compliance directors. Our administrative staffs are typically a lot smaller or a little bit smaller. And so I think this just gives us one more lever to help our compliance officers in that regard.
Yeah, the portal's here to stay. So we need to be ready and reactive to it. And couldn't agree more with what Jason said about trying to simplify things for our administrators. We're not operating with large compliance offices, and when we get transfers, we spend a lot of time trying to chase down information for the tracer forms and that type of stuff. So anything we can do to kind of condense and simplify, and like he said, give us consistency across the board, I would certainly support that.
The other one you mentioned was MPI. I'm curious, through year one, thinking forward, Russ, when we start with you, are there any changes that you are implementing as a result of how you've seen it go so far? I guess the biggest thing obviously being scheduling.
On campus, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that, and I think we're still learning, like, how can we schedule to best position ourselves to get to an MPI that where we want to be. Our goal is to compete for a conference championship in every sport and make our way to the tournament that way. But that's not always realistic. So how can we best situate ourselves to have an opportunity to get an at-large bid? And I do think you have to be quite strategic about that going forward. How challenging is your conference? How do you then need to construct your non-conference schedule to put you in that position where you're confident going into, as the season progresses, that you have a chance to go either way. You win the conference, great, but if you don't, you still have the opportunity to continue into the postseason. So it's going to take some time and some learning, and we're really evaluating, do we need to play the number one team in the country to help our MPI, or can we play somebody in the top 10, 15, 20, and what's the value on those different metrics? So we'll see what happens.
I think it's been great, talking about our coaches, even from a conference standpoint. It gives us an opportunity as conference colleagues to talk about what's in the best interest of the conference as well. I'll give you an example. You look at our scheduling in the WIAC for softball. We play doubleheaders, and the majority of their schedule is non-conference opponents, even though conference is really important. On the baseball side, we play each other 4 times. And so does that make sense? Because now you're talking more than 50% of your schedule is conference. So it really, as you start to think about it strategically, you want to position yourself in a really good position where you do have an opportunity to make the tournament if in fact you don't have the opportunity to acquire the AQ. And so again, I think more than anything is thinking about, and then the other is regionally, what makes sense for us in terms of who we play regionally as well, and being mindful of the finances that are associated with that. So I think it's been a great thing for our membership, and look forward to this kind of continuing to move forward for sure.
Russ, has your conference had similar conversations of what is the optimal way to schedule per sport?
Yeah, I think the different coaches groups have had a lot of good productive discussion around that, and how can each school kind of schedule to put our conference as a whole in the best position, and what works best for us might not work best for another institution in our league, but collectively, how can we work together to put ourselves in a good spot? And again, just finishing a year, I don't think we know all the answers yet, but it's gonna. As I say that, I'll also say I don't think we have to completely reinvent the wheel. I think in general, you want to play a good competitive schedule that you can be pretty successful at, and you'll probably be okay. But same time, I think as administrators, we want to pay attention to the details and figure out exactly what's going to work best for our programs. And
It's
so that's kinda where we are.
understanding the nuance and how maybe those small details can help you get those few extra points. Because we've seen there's been certain sports where it's been razor thin. That line has been very thin.
Thinking about away games as well, like the difference between
Yeah.
away games. The one thing that's been interesting too, that one, and then the other is the end of the year conference tournaments. Do they single elimination, double elimination? Can a team take 2 losses in baseball and softball, or does it make sense they only play singles? So there's some nuance to it, and I wouldn't be surprised based on some of these that some sports consider maybe not having a conference tournament. So yeah, it's interesting for sure.
Do you think that's a viable? Is that what's in the best interest of the student athlete? Russ, you can take that first. You're both very eager to answer.
Well, I feel strongly about conference competition, and for us, it starts with let's get in the conference tournament, let's be in the mix to win a conference championship, see what happens from there. So I think we place a lot of value on winning our league, because realistically, if we don't win our conference, maybe we get in, maybe we don't, but it's going to be challenging. So I would hate to go down that route. Now, that's not to say that I don't think everybody should get into the conference tournament, but I do think, regardless of MPI, there's room for it, and there should always be a lot of value placed on doing well in your conference and being competitive and having that chance to win a championship every year.
I would agree. I would say that the one thing, it just depends on the particular sport and coach group, and then the history. But there's no doubt, I think over the last several years, I said this to a number of colleagues, the one thing I'm really proud in Division III, if you look over the last probably 8 to 10 years, conference tournaments have expanded dramatically, 2 and 4. And a lot of that is because, top of mind, we want to provide as much postseason experience to student athletes in our membership as possible. And that's always what we talk about, is what's in the best interest of the membership. So to me, that'll always kind of continue to be a top of mind for us.
One of the other top of mind things that seems always to be in the management council report, write-up, whatever it may be, is changes around championships, given that is the top expenditure for the division. What are the next conversations that the management council is thinking about having regarding championships? Obviously, there's been some changes with bracket size, principals, all those kind of things that have happened as of late.
I'm going to let the veteran answer that question.
Well, I'll say this. I think, we get, as you get surveys or you just get feedback, and the makeup of the committees change over time, which I always like. In the time I've been associated with whether it's management council, championships, any of the committees, as you get new members, it's always great to hear their voice once they feel comfortable, because we have, such a broad membership, and sometimes you can get in a cycle like, hey, we've always done this. What else makes sense for us going forward? Other than continuing to say, I would say that providing the best opportunities for our student athletes and the experience is always going to be a top of mind. I don't think that'll ever change. So the one discussion piece I know from my first year till now, being associated with management council, champs, or anything, is always what did we do well? How do we repeat that? And how can we get better? So that to me is always going to be a discussion piece.
Yeah, the only thing I would add would be looking at the consistency from championship to championship, not only from an equitable perspective, but also just in how they're administered, whether you're presenting awards or not, or whether you have a pre-championship meeting or not. Some of those little, and I consider those probably more tweaks than anything, but I think we're both sit on the championships committee as well, and I think we'll take a look at that and see how can we kind of ensure that it's consistent going forward, while again reaching that ultimate objective of ensuring that the experience is a good one for the students.
As the championships experience continues to change, I'm curious what the role of the regional athletic or regional advisory committee continues to be. Obviously, that's, I imagine, changed significantly. I imagine those that are on racks, probably they're days feel probably a little easier at times, especially as selections come around, given that MPI has taken some of that discussion away, while obviously the bracketing remains the same. What does the future role for the RACs look like in Division III?
The biggest thing is, if you were to ask any of our colleagues, finding regional reps for the championships is always really key. So we hope that those people that are on the RACs continue to take an initiative to make that a priority. I would say the other thing too is continuing to have conversations related to bracketing, because you got to play the what if game, and we want to have the best bracket possible within the confines of, again, our principles. And then the other is start to have conversations about people making bids, so that location and opportunities for different sites, so we can put on good championships, I think is really important. So.
Yeah, certainly, and I think we'll know a little bit more. I think we're not in a position to make any rash decisions right now on the RACs, because NPI still needs to evolve and develop, and their role may change a little bit depending upon what we decide to do in the next couple of years, and what seems to work best for the NPI itself. So some of it's unknown, and I think otherwise to me there's still very much a place for it from the site rep standpoint. Like Jason said, that's important. I think for the coaches and others that are on it, I really encourage my staff to get involved, coaches and other administrators. It's a great way to network with people, get to know people. It's how I got my start, being on committees. So I think over time we'll better be able to define it's going to be a new role for RAC members, but there's still that value of just ways to get to know people and more to involve yourself in the NCAA and its inner workings.
What value has being obviously management council, but obviously other committees before that, what value has that had for both of your careers?
I can't say enough. It's been probably one of the most fulfilling opportunities for me professionally. I was very hesitant. I think a lot of that you're so consumed with what you want to try to accomplish on campus. But from a broad sense, for me now, really understanding the totality of the NCAA, the inner workings of committees, and as I've been fortunate enough to be at an institution that sends a lot of teams to postseason, and student athletes get to experience that. Knowing that the work that we do on a daily basis, whether it's management council committee, how that has a ripple effect to their experience. And as you think about it, the very next wave of talented athletic directors that are coming, we need to continue to encourage them to take steps, because it is fulfilling work. It's a lot of work, but you have to have talented people that are willing to take the step to do it. So it's been fantastic. I can't say enough about it for me personally.
Same for me. I think the professional development component of it is fantastic, and I've been in this business for going to my 25th year as an AD, and I still learn so much when I'm on these committees. Watching how he runs our meetings as the chair, it's impressive, and there's growth.
I didn't pay him for that. Thank you.
No, he does a great job.
That. Yeah, thank you.
But there's growth opportunities, and me being able to see how he runs things, and just he's in Wisconsin, I'm in New Jersey. Now we get to meet each other and get to share best practices, and then you take all the other people. So much of this business is about relationships and getting to know people, and I couldn't recommend it more.
As both of you continue to be on management council, how has that maybe tweaked or changed how you view being a leader at your respective campus? Jason, you mentioned the need to take a step back and evaluate what's best for not just your respective institution, but the division as a whole. As you lead through, whether that's things on campus, things within your conference, things on management council, has that shifted maybe how you lead? Russ, we can start with you.
I think a little bit. I think as an administrator, you need that balanced perspective to start to be able to do the job the right way, and you can't be too jilted one way or the other. You really need to consider. We need to consider things that our coaches wouldn't necessarily consider, or even some of our other staff. So I think that's important regardless. But being a part of this group, I think makes that even that much more important. And in some ways, it gives us a leg up because we're talking about things and learning about things that will be presented to the membership maybe at a little later time, and it's really helpful. And I think it certainly can be advantageous for us within our campus, as well as within our conference as well. So that's another reason I think there's a lot of value. Again, like I said before, I think it's a great opportunity to test ourselves and to continue to grow and develop as administrators.
Jason?
I couldn't say it any better. I think the biggest thing, as Russ had mentioned, is when you sit in a meeting, you try to do some background on everybody's career a little bit about who's sitting in the room, and then as they provide some feedback, you're like, obviously they have a tremendous amount of experience or whatever experience they're bringing to the table. For me, I've learned so much over the last couple years being the chair. Just a number of talented people that are passionate about student athletes and their institutions, and that has really infused a lot of energy into me, trying to bring it to our campus and to our group. And I can't say enough, like I said, the leadership from Louise and Bill and the rest of their staff also helped that as well. And I feel we're really situated well as a Division III membership right now.
I'll ask you guys this last question, maybe multiple questions, but you guys mentioned earlier the impact that streaming has had through the first year, having all the championships broadcast either on ESPN Plus or through NCAA.com, the value that that's had, the numbers that it's had. Where do you think the future for streaming lies within Division III? Obviously, we've seen some schools go behind the paywall with Flow, other partners be involved at various institutions. We've seen across all small college athletics, different schools, different divisions take different approaches. Where do you guys think that lies, the future lies ahead for Division III?
I think, obviously, whether it's going to be pay or not is a big question, and it's going to be interesting to see how the path that goes down. So I'll keep it at that. But I think the other part of it, and again, Louise was just talking in one of our sessions earlier today about the success we had this year with streaming the championships, putting them all on the one platform, so you can go, and get this game or this game or this game from one spot, right? Instead of going to 16 different websites to try to watch all the different games. So I think that is really a great start. And then I look forward to maybe there's more with, features on student athletes in the broadcast. Maybe, again, the broadcast get enhanced more where we get to know the athletes a little bit better. I think there's so much value with Division III if we can get to that point and kind of mimic what we're seeing on national TV, or maybe we get there at some point. So I think there's still a lot that can be done, but it's pretty amazing when you think about it, the steps that we've taken in a very short time. So the future is going to be fun to watch. I think it's all going to be very positive.
Absolutely.
I'll say this: we have 400 plus institutions, several championships, and those student athletes that graduate from our institutions, whether they're on campus or not, or they still come to games, they want to watch our content. They want to know if I'm a Division III baseball player and I played, and I have one of my former players that, he's like watching different clips of what's going on in the playoffs and what do you know about this, So those are the things I think about the future, is not only our current student athletes and families, but our former student athletes as well. The more we can make that content accessible for them, the better for us in the future. And so I feel confident that we're going to get in a position, looking at the numbers that have come back, if we can continue to expand that, it's only going to help us as the Division III identity and continue to expand our brand without a doubt.
Absolutely. Jason, Russ, thank you both for joining me today, sharing all the insights on Management Council.
Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.